Bear with me, folks. Okay, this week's drug is Trenbolone Enanthate. Now, excuse me, back sore. What I plan to do now is to do a drug profile that will be published 5 p.m. every Wednesday. So I'm trying to get a bit of structure to the page so that you know that every Wednesday at 5 o'clock UK time, a new drug profile will be posted on the YouTube channel. And then Monday would be training. Friday I do my live Q&A, and I may put something on Tuesdays and Thursdays. I'm still seeing what I do there. So today's drug is Trenbolone Enanthate, commonly referred to as Tren. I think everybody knows it as Tren, Trenenth, Trene. Its anabolic to androgen ratio is 500 to 500. So in comparison to test, which is 100 to 100, you can see where this thing is more powerful. Now, this doesn't mean it's 5 times more anabolic or 5 times more androgenic than test. It isn't quite as literal as that. But it does mean it's a more powerful drug. Half-life in vitro is 10.5 days. If you followed some of my recent vids about half-life, you'll know that half-life varies from person to person, varies due to body fat levels, and also varies when you reach a homeostasis in hormone level within the blood. So, back end of your cycle, you're probably talking a half-life of about 4.5, 5 days with this stuff. Detection time, 5 months. Doses vary massively, as little as 100 milligrams a week. I've personally been as high as 1.5 G, but I wouldn't recommend that to anybody. It all depends on how you suffer the sides, and the sides from Tren can be particularly rough. It's actually, now previously I've always said this stuff is not for females, but actually it's quite effective for females, but we're talking 10th. If it's an enanthate, we're probably talking about 20-30 milligram a week with very, very low dose. Trenbolone is very happy in a high estrogen environment, which is why it works particularly well for women. The other thing to bear in mind with this is that if you get a hormone test while you're on Tren, your estrogen level will be through the roof. That's because the more commonly used hormone testing cannot tell the difference between Tren and estrogen because it's estrogen based. So as a result, it will see Tren as estrogen, and it's not uncommon for people running Tren to have estrogen levels touching 1,000. Obviously, that's severely scary levels. So you've got to be a little bit, unfortunately, when it comes to Tren, you've just got to listen to your body a little bit and look at what side you are suffering to see if there are any estrogen-related sides going on. Now, obviously, Tren itself doesn't aromatize, but it's generally run with test. You can run low test, high Tren. That's down to personal choice. What I would say with when you're running a low test base or any test base with Tren, that you opt for Novadex as opposed to Arimidex, Aromacin, or any of the AIs, because you actually work better with elevated estrogen levels. So really it's better to block the receptor to stop estrogen size and leave high estrogen floating around in your system, because Tren prefers that environment. Now, it's a veterinary drug. It was never ever really designed for humans. Now, Tren Hex was known as Parabolin. Now, that did exist for humans for a few years, but Enanthate, Acetate, all the other versions of Tren, they've never been used for, only for veterinary drug, and generally in the form of Finajet, which is a veterinary pellet. It's probably generally in the drugs that we use the most powerful, and as a result it's gained popularity because of that. it's part of the nandrolone family. So what I've discussed in the past with nandrolones is it can affect short-term memory, it can affect mood, and there can be depressive-like symptoms post-usage. Rat studies have shown that Tren can have a direct effect on kidney tissue and on brain cells. Now let's be right with this, all right? Animal studies don't always relate to human studies, and in fact, quite often not at all. But if you speak to a Tren user, they will tell you about bad night sweats, very vivid dreams, Tren cough, which is an irritating dry cough. Now, regards Tren cough, we don't, to be honest, no one's come up with an actual definite definition of what causes this. From what I can see, it's to do with some restrictive nature within the lungs. Very similar to PGF2A that aspirates through the lungs post-injection, as does benzyl alcohol, and you get a constriction in the lung, in your airway, which results in a cough. Tren is more persistent, but I do think it's that route that the hormone is having an effect, but I'll be honest, I don't know exactly how it does it. Obviously, as an nandrolone, it gives hard shutdown. It can also, people generally report a coldness, a detachment from their feelings and from people around them, and a very basal instinctive sort of approach to things. A lot of people report very, very high libido on Tren, but in an almost aggressive, dangerous way where their sexual appetite is very ruthless and lacks morality. I personally, apart from a bit of cardio deficiency, which I'm not particularly good at anyway, I don't really get much in the way of sides off Tren. Some people get them particularly bad. It does affect your CV capability, which again is what makes me think the Tren cough is to do with some restriction within the blood vessels within the lungs. Excuse me. It also, mutates sperm, but this can easily be prevented using taurine. So about 5 grams of taurine a day will prevent the sperm mutation. And that really is the bulk of the sides. A lot of people struggle with this stuff from a psychological point of view, and people report anxiety issues and mood issues and all sorts of things along those lines. And you've got to think at the end of the day, if a drug is severely affecting your dreams to the point where you are having very vivid, very realistic, and generally quite sick and twisted dreams, that it's messing around with your brain chemistry. So it's not surprising that this stuff could potentially do some harm to our brains or to our psyches and anxiety and such like. Now, for those that haven't followed my previous videos with the steroids in the brain, you may not be aware that our brains actually produce testosterone. Minutely, but they do it, and it does have quite a large impact on our personalities. I'm of the belief that nandrolone family has a direct impact on this testosterone production that's localized within the brain, and it's why we have these potential anxiety and mood related issues with nandrolones, and particularly with Tren, because it is so powerful. It's as anything else, it has side effects, hair loss, those sort of thing, and a 5-alpha reductase inhibitor won't stop this. So because it doesn't convert to DHT, you can't stop that. There is no conversion. So for that reason, 5-alpha reductase inhibitors don't stop it, and the androgenicides can't be managed this way. It does bind with the progesterone receptor. In fact, its affinity to the progesterone receptor is stronger than that progesterone itself, so it will supersede progesterone itself. And it actually, out of all the hormones we use, it has the highest binding affinity of all. So its binding to receptors is very strong. Now, you could look at an antiprogesterone like mifepristone or algapristone, but the size on those things are quite rough. So quite often people use something like cabergoline as a antiprolatic. I haven't really found too many people having big issues with progesterone-related size from Tren. That seems to be more common with his cousin Decker, but the testability is still there. And really, that is about it. There are some studies that I said that are showing some direct impact on kidneys, but these are animal studies, they are in infancy, and as yet I would say it's not proven. But I do think it's an area that we do need to be very concerned with. And I think it's something that you need to be aware of, that if you are using Tren at high doses or for long periods of time, that it will be fruitful to monitor your kidney function quite closely. That is roughly it. You know, this is powerful shit. It generally produces what would be regarded as hard lean gains, no aromatization, so no real water retention. Good for strength as well, popular within the strength communities as well. Very, very suppressive. So, like all nandrolones, you're going to need a pretty brutal PCT to bring yourself around after this stuff. Some of these versions are particularly potent. It's actually suppression is 3 times that of testosterone. So there you go. It's powerful stuff. Personally, I'm going to add into the bottom of this, I don't like this shit, I'll be honest with you. It is a very popular drug and is probably second only to testosterone for popularity within users, but the scare and horror stories that users come back to me with from side effects from this stuff, I don't really think the positives outweigh the negatives with Tren. And in my opinion, if you're going to use it low dose, otherwise leave it well alone. But that's my only personal opinion on the end of this. Obviously, it's down to you and yourselves and what you do. Okay, so that wraps it up for this week's drug. And see you next week.